Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. Welcome to the 2021 Annual Boston Scores Celebration. I'm Johanna Koshi, co-chair of the event, and this is my husband, Masa Koshi, also a longtime supporter of Boston Scores. We're so excited to be here tonight. A few housekeeping items before we get started. We ask that you stay muted throughout the program, but invite you to keep your cameras on and chat with other guests by clicking on the chat box icon on the bottom of your screen. We will be playing a little bit of a game tonight throughout the evening. As we roll through the main speaking program, anytime you hear the word soccer or coach, hold up the whistle prop. Or for the tech savvy, using the reaction button, select the ta-da reaction, also located at the bottom of your screen. Let's see if you can catch them all. And those of you joining in a group at home, we encourage you to keep score. We will also be posting live updates on social media. The links to our channels are in the chat. Don't forget to follow us.
This evening we'll hear from Boston Scores coaches and student alumni on how resilience is built through community. We're also excited to be joined by Brad Feldman and Charlie Davies, our guest speaker. Brad and Charlie will join us later for a conversation about resilience in sport and their lives. Thank you to everyone who helped make this event happen, including our event co-chair, Mark Ott, the entire event committee, staff, board, and especially our sponsors. Before we begin and I hand it over to our host for the evening, I'd like to take a moment to recognize our sponsors in the room. Thank you to our gold sponsors, Bob and Diane Bruno, David and Nicole Chang, TradeWeb, Clara Capital, Mintz, Colin and Dina Mazzola. Our silver sponsors, Calantha Lee and Matt Egan, Gary Scott, Advent International, Goldman Sachs, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan, PwC, Farland Group, Mark Ott Real Estate, Kirkland & Ellis, Ernst & Young, and Bloomberg. Our bronze sponsors, Kyle and Sarah Neidhart, Brendan and Laura Groton, Burns Levinson, Longwood Residential, Bob and Missy Shea, Natixis, Deutsche Bank, and Trumid.
Now, I'd like to introduce this evening's host, Brad Feldman. He is an experienced sports personality, is the longtime voice of the New England Revolution radio and TV broadcasts. Brad worked as a print journalist, television show producer, and sideline reporter across the country before returning to his native roots in New England in 2001 to join the Revolution's television and communications teams. Active in both the soccer and philanthropic communities, Brad has been a part of the Boston Scores celebration for over a decade. Without further ado, Brad Feldman.
Thank you so much for that, Johanna. I'm Brad Feldman, your host for this evening. I'm the play-by-play voice of the New England Revolution on TV and radio. And I just want to tell you about Boston Scores, the reason that we're all here tonight and that everybody is making these great donations. Boston Scores, as we all know, uses the sport of soccer to help students develop life skills, both on and off the field. And students join a team at the beginning of the school year. They play soccer on the field, but they also participate with their team in academic enrichment programs, varying by each age group. Starting with elementary school students, they use poetry and develop literacy and self-expression using spoken word. Middle school students, it's about entrepreneurship and business. The One Hand program, a terrific entrepreneurship program for the middle school students. And at the high school level, it's college readiness and career development. Very pleased now to introduce the next portion of our program, featuring Boston Scores coaches and student alumni, all of them this time from East Boston, and all of them will be sharing how their resiliency helped them in life and in the program. And joining us to start, Cynthia Grant Carter. She's been coaching with Boston Scores for 15 years, all of those years at the Patrick J. Kennedy School in East Boston. Also Jocelyn Martinez, a student alumnus of the Boston Scores program, the first student to complete the program from the 3rd grade all the way through the 8th grade. Ever Barrera is from El Salvador. He shares the same background as several of our students. He's been a coach and staff member at Boston Scores for the past 2 years, stepping in to help wherever is needed. He's been at 4 different schools for Boston Scores. And now here's a video on the people we're honoring tonight.
Resilience means you have a struggle and that you need to use your voice to find help so you can overcome your struggle and to move forward. Because if you don't, you just stay unstable for a while until you face your struggles to overcome it. And you have to use your voice and get the resources that you need to get to the point where you want to go to. I see resilience play into my students' life when they struggle with learning how to dribble the ball. And it's like, oh, Miss Gregg, I can't do it. And I was like, yes, you can. You just keep practicing. Don't worry. You know, get one of your big brothers, your big sisters to help you out, or your daddy to help you out. You know, spend some quality time with somebody who knows how to do it. And then keep practicing, and then you're going to get it. But remember, it's slow and steady progress. You have to continue to work at it. And then eventually, you got it.
Scores like, it's not just a program. It's more, for me, and what I see in students, like, it's like a family, you know? Like, you know that they got coaches that care about them, mentors, teachers. And that's very important, because I've been through that same thing, you know, like, oh, they care about me, oh, I got a soccer ball, I got new cleats, you know. So I feel like Scores cares about the kids a lot. And kids see everything, they notice everything. You know?
Being introduced to Boston by Scores really helped me appreciate the city and how lovely it is and how wonderful our community is. I met people from so many different parts of the world, from so many different cultures, with so many ideas and cool thoughts, and it showed me how diverse we really were. It popped that bubble for me, the one that I had for myself, and it made me more excited about exploring not only Boston, but even exploring the world too. It kind of showed me that the sky's the limit.
It kind of brings me back when I first moved to the States back in 2006, when I didn't speak English, and I feel like I know how that feels, being into a brand new country, learning a new language, and I feel like for example, being in East Boston, like 65% of our kids, they only speak Spanish, so you're more connected to each other. You're like, yeah, he speaks Spanish, so that's cool. Like, I don't have to be afraid of saying something in English and might be wrong. I could just say it in Spanish.
We were rehearsing in our gym, and one by one we were going on stage to practice public speaking. There was this one older girl. She got on stage and she started her poem, Immigrants, Immigrants, Immigrants. She caught everyone's attention. She wasn't shy, and she spoke about how she was feeling about immigration and how it was affecting her family, her community, how it was affecting us. It taught me that I shouldn't be afraid to speak about the things that I'm passionate about, speak about issues and problems that I want to fight against. I'm thankful for that experience, and I'm thankful for Scores for putting that together, because it truly did help me find my voice.
Moving to a new country, different culture, different environment, different weather. It was a big change. You know, I come from a very tiny place from back home, which is El Salvador. Leaving everything behind and moving here by myself, just me and my mom. There's a lot of kids in our program that they're going through the same thing that I went through. So that's why I feel more connected, and that's why I'm with Scores, because it's like, it kind of like put me in a time machine, bring me back in time, and like, oh, that was me back then. So that's what I do now, just to give it back a little bit. You know, now that I have more experience, and you know, thanks to Scores, I learned so much.
My favorite memory, being a part of Scores, was the first time I saw my name and my poem in a book. And it was a very special moment for me, because it taught me that despite being so young and despite learning different things, that was still something that was capable for me. Not only that, but that people are reading my work. Other students, other people in Scores, and community members who wanted copies of our book. I had my teachers congratulate me for my poem and for being a part of this collection with other students. And I truly felt celebrated.
Doing our community service, we wrote poems. We actually, inside a brown paper bag, we put 2 sandwiches and a poem inside the bag. We went to the Boston Commons and we passed out the sandwiches to all the homeless people who were accepted. And just to see the smile on their faces and the smile on the kids' faces, it gave them a better appreciation that it's, as Greg Carter was right, it's the small things that actually count that put a smile on people's faces. And just doing community service, give them a broader respect. It's not about I all the time, it's about how can I help the community to become better.
Thank you all for sharing your stories. It's amazing how the power of community and supporting one another can lead to more enrichment in the community and individuals' lives. And I'm very pleased now to welcome in my broadcast partner from the Revolution telecast, Charlie Davies, expert analyst now in his second season with us, but also U.S. national team games for CBS, Serie A, the Italian league. He's pretty much any soccer media right now. Charlie's on it, MLSsoccer.com. Charlie, good to see you outside the context of the Revolution broadcasts.
This is nice. I enjoy being here in Boston and doing this all for a good cause.
Okay, before we talk more about Boston Scores, since you played for the Revs and now get to see every minute of every game they play, and grew up a fan of the club, is this team under Bruce Arena right now the best Revolution side ever?
There's been some incredible sides. When I look at the mid-2000s with Charlie Joseph and Clint Dempsey and Taylor Twallman and Jay Heaps and Matt Reese, that was probably the best Revolution side until now.
Until now.
You can't argue with how the league has grown, the amount of money poured into the league, and what they've been able to accomplish this season. It's going to go down in the record books. So for me, this will be the best Revolution team that they've assembled, and it's not over yet. So they got to bring the hardware home. MLS Cup would be nice, but I do believe they're going to bring home the Supporter Shield.
All right, let's shift away from the Revs to your personal story. Who is the most influential coach or mentor that you had in your life, in your childhood in Manchester, New Hampshire, in your teen years at Brooks, BC, or some other part of your life?
The most influential coach that has meant the most to me and got me to where I am now is my father. So my father is the one who introduced me to the game, who took me to the field every single day to train till sundown, who had me study players like Ronaldo and Thierry Henry and Henrik Larsson. He is the reason why I became a professional soccer player. In high school, it would be John Kerr, former Revolution striker, who was the first professional coach that I had. And he brought me to Europe for the first time. He helped me study players like Henrik Larsson, got me a taste of what European soccer is all about, European football. And I think when I had him as a coach, I finally realized that I had the ability to become a professional soccer player, and that it all came down to work ethic.
Charlie, I hear about it a lot because I work with you. I can tell you're having a great time coaching your own kids right now, your twin sons. What does taking on that role mean to you, and what have you learned about yourself as a parent? And what is your experience as a player? How much of that do you bring to the youth soccer side of it?
It means the world to me, and in more ways than one. I think children having fun is the number one priority. I want my boys to love the game of soccer, but not just because I played it. I want them to love it because of what it did for me and what it can do for them. Introducing them to different cultures, different types of food, being introduced to so many different people from around the world and traveling to so many incredible cities around the world. That's the game did for me. It gave me discipline. It gave me purpose, and it allowed me to become, a well-rounded individual. Now, if they don't play soccer, that's fine.
You sure?
It is. I am not that guy, but I am the guy who's going to be there. I'm the guy that everyone probably wants as a coach because I just make it fun. That's my number one responsibility. Make it fun. Now there are some good lessons to be learned throughout the game, but I make sure that it's all in good fun.
So you have the coach's edge, but you only flex the key. It sounds like you have it all in balance, but
Yes.
we give Charlie a hard time about it at work. Okay, let's get more serious. Not every kid, and most kids, in fact, are not going to make it, even if they have talent, even if they excel in their peer group. But you still believe that soccer has a place in the development of young people, regardless of whether they have professional potential.
You're a part of a team, and 11 players are on the field at once. You're going to have to figure out how do you work within that team. You have to always work together. And as a professional, you're not going to like every single person on the team. That's just how it goes.
As in life.
But you have to work together, and you have to find a commonality between individuals, between groups within the team. And I think that applies the same in the workspace, right? You go into a job, there's certain people pulling in certain directions, people have different agendas, but at the same time, you have to figure out a way to get your job done and working together as a team. That translates so well. People speak different languages, figuring out ways to still communicate. Communication is key when you're playing the game of soccer. And I think just when you have the ability, in some cases, to travel the world and meet so many different people, it's the world's game for a reason. It's going to translate well in whatever phase of life. And I think in different types of occupations, whether you play professional soccer or collegiate soccer or just recreational soccer, doors are going to open for you. I think the network of people that play the game, it's just it's a shared commonality across the globe. You become a global citizen, so to speak, when you play soccer. And so I always tell kids, whether you make it to become a professional soccer player, which is everyone's dream, it's a goal, but the reality is it often doesn't happen.
Usually
you can still be part of a team. You can be in the front office, you could be a coach, you could be a scout, you could be selling tickets, you could still be in the professional environment if that's what you want to do, but you're always going to be better for playing the game of soccer, always.
Charlie, I know that Boston Scores is interested in this answer because it's what they ask all their coaches. How do you define resiliency?
Resiliency to me is when you're brave and you have the courage to face adversity and not being afraid to fail, and knowing that no matter what it takes, you're not going to give up, knowing that there's ups and downs through life, and it's never going to be as bad as you think, or it's maybe never as bad as you think it's going to be, but and it won't last. Those difficult times don't last, but they do make you stronger. So resiliency to me is overcoming any hurdle or obstacle or challenge that you face, and being positive about it, and knowing that.
Well, I hesitate to bring it up, but you've been brave about sharing your experiences and some of the adversity that you face, which is considerable. For those viewers who aren't aware of your full story, you've had a couple of major challenges. One is the car accident that certainly put your professional playing career on a detour, if not completely derailing it. It was a horrific moment in your life. And then when you got back to playing, you were diagnosed with cancer, which thankfully you've been cleared of now. But can you talk about both of those experiences and how they impacted your life and the mentality that you have today?
Sure. Yeah, I'm well versed in these now, so it's no problem. So it was October 2009, and we're in the last two games of World Cup qualifying. We're playing in Honduras, and if we win, we qualify for the 2010 World Cup. And lo and behold, we win the game. That was probably the highest moment for me with the U.S. men's national team in terms of a team, a locker room, and we came together and we're spraying champagne, and it was the moment you always dream of. Like, you're going to be playing the World Cup. It was the validation of all your hard work and knowing that your dreams are going to be coming true in about 6 months. And we fly to Washington, D.C. There's one game left against Costa Rica. We get together as a team on Sunday. We go all around D.C. It's fun, a lot of partying. And then Monday comes and Bob Riley's like, okay, we got the party now. Now it's time to focus as a team. We have a game on Wednesday. I go to this place called Shadow Room in D.C. and I met up with a really close friend of mine. Comes around 2:30. I'm gonna go back. Now this was not like a partying night. It's a Monday night. There was a curfew at 12. I broke that curfew. So I wake up the next morning. Actually, it was probably 7 to 10 days later. But I woke up and I had 36 staples down my stomach. And I had a broken and fractured left elbow, fractured femur, fractured tibia and fibula, fractured ribs, a ruptured bladder, countless facial fractures, and a brain bleed. And the doctors basically told me, I thought I was in Honduras, I thought I was kidnapped. And so I thought someone was stealing my organs and I was in a hostel. And the doctor, and I kind of looked at the doctor and said, what am I doing here? And they said, you were in a car accident. And I laughed and I said, anybody could say that. Where am I? Like, Mr. Davies, you've done this several times. You're in Washington, D.C. You're involved in a serious car accident. We don't know if you're going to be able to run again. And so I remember thinking, wait, I got a World Cup in 6 months. What do you mean you don't know if I'm going to be able to run again? And that was the moment that I had realized everything's going to be different. I still probably thought I could get back for the World Cup.
You worked hard to try to do it.
But I think I knew deep down it wasn't going to happen when I couldn't walk and I had to relearn how to. And so a month out, I have to go across the street to the rehab hospital. I hadn't been out of bed. And they're like, all right, let's see if you can get on your feet and try and walk. And I couldn't move my legs. And I had people walking around me, in helmets and crutches. And it took me five minutes or so to move my leg an inch. And I think that's when I realized, I cried for the first time. And I think that's when I realized this was going to be a long journey. I saw my father cry for the first time in my life when I moved my leg for the first time. And that was something that rocked my family, rocked my wife, and then rocked myself. And so from that moment, I said, I'm going to try and make this up to my family, to my teammates, to the fans, to the world, anybody who was supporting the U.S. national team was supporting me. I felt I let everyone down, and my responsibility from that moment on was to make people proud of my recovery, to let people know how sorry I was, and to live my life in a different way. And so, going through the process of not being able to use my left arm or my hands, not being able to walk, being in a wheelchair, and each step I took, I realized how grateful I was to be able to do certain things, how I couldn't take taking a shower for granted, putting on clothes for granted. I couldn't go to the bathroom by myself for a month or so. So there were all these things that puts everything, for me, puts everything together in a way that helps you understand what life's about. And so, I get back on my feet and get back to playing soccer again, never the same player. And when you say derail my career, it absolutely derailed my career in every single way. I was nowhere near the player I was in 2009, and I had to trick myself into thinking I was close to it. But everyone knows, I knew myself, I was not the same player. But with that being said, I knew I could inspire my teammates, I could inspire the fans, and I knew I had still enough quality to still put in performances to win games and enjoy the game and score goals. And that in itself was extra credit. Just to be on the field again was extra credit. So I made the most of it, no doubt. I never stopped trying to catch my old self. So from the moment I started playing again, I realized, okay, 2009 Charlie Davies is way up there, and I just have to do extra. And as hard as I worked, it was never enough. And sometimes I pull the muscle here or pull the muscle there because I was doing too much, because I never could recover, because there was never that moment for me to relax. So I finally got into a rhythm with the New England Revolution, and I felt like it was as close as I'm going to get to the best version of myself post accident.
5 years later.
5 years later. And I felt 2016, after scoring 10 goals in 2015, I thought 2016 was going to be my year where I could maybe get a January call for the national team. That was my ultimate goal. Come full circle, get a national team call up, even if it's January camp, and it's all good. And the first game of the season, my wife, her water breaks 4 days before the first game of the year, and she was at 25 weeks. So we're in the hospital for a couple of days. Then they told me I could travel. She's not going to deliver. So I flew to Houston. I scored in that game. Flew back. Next game, pull a muscle. Got to wait to recover. Then the babies are born. So then the twins were born at 27 weeks and 5 days. That initial first 10 days, you don't know if they're going to survive, if one's going to live, one's not, what's their long-term, effects. And I wasn't sleeping right, eating right. And so just right when I recovered from that first hamstring pull, I start again and I pull my groin in the first start. And I just felt like, I was just getting going. What's going on here? I get a scan and they find a tumor. It ends up being a liposarcoma cancer. That was the lowest point in my life. My wife called me and said she was breastfeeding for the first time in the NICU, and what a milestone that was. And I didn't have the heart to tell her that, I'm going to have to go to Boston to see a specialist because they think this is a cancerous tumor. And that drive to the hospital, because I wanted to tell her in person, I cried the whole way. I thought that this was it. I had escaped death 2, 3, 4 times, and it finally caught up with me. And so, if there was ever a moment where I was close to breaking, that was it. And just because I never thought I would be able to see my kids grow old and be a father and be, a husband and, get to live this next phase of my life. And so, thankfully we're in Boston and Dana-Farber's here, and Brigham and Women's was able to get our boys back to full health, and they're healthy, happy 5-year-olds now. And Dana-Farber, thanks to Dana-Farber, I'm 5 years in the clear from cancer. So those are things that have been, hurdles, challenges, but I know that's not it. I know that's not going to be the end of it. And those instances have just built my resiliency level. So I'm ready for the next one. And I don't know when it's going to come, and I do know it's going to come at some point, but I feel like there's nothing I can't handle at this point. There's nothing I can't handle. No matter how bad it is, I know I have to be strong, and I have to be someone that, is a role model for these difficult moments that people face throughout their life. I'm here for a reason, and I think that's what it is, to inspire, to motivate, and to give back in any way possible.
Now we're looking at an entire generation of children who may be touched long-term by the traumas brought on by the pandemic and social division in our society. How do you think that a group like Boston Scores and community organizations can support kids coming up through those kinds of traumas?
Well, one, I wish I had a Boston Scores when I was growing up. But I think I can relate in a lot of ways to what kids are going through now, because there was an isolation period for me. We didn't have cable. We didn't have internet. We didn't have food at times. And so, and most of the times I didn't have both parents. I had one, and usually that one was really not all that involved. So the only way I was able to express my feelings was going outside and playing sports. And so a lot of the time I spent it by myself or with my brother, and it was just us two. And so when I look back at that time, that's what gave us joy and gave us direction and gave us a dream, was being able to go outside and play sports, and occasionally we'd be with friends, but for the most part, we would just go out and kill the time by shooting on each other and practicing the moves we saw on TV. And so when I look at what Boston Scores is able to do, is now you're giving role models and leaders and people they can have conversations with that they otherwise wouldn't have. That's massive. So it goes from being so self-isolated and not having anyone to talk to or share moments with, to now you have adults that you can actually talk to and who can give you insight and who can help you and point you in the right direction. I didn't have that. So I think what Boston Scores does is really important, and it's incredible.
Well, lastly, Charlie, I'm just going to editorialize and say Charlie is one of the most upbeat, positive, optimistic people that I've worked with, and that optimism it radiates out to everybody around us when we work together. You can see it at the stadium. Sometimes it's hard to get you there on time because everybody wants to talk to you, even if you show up early. But that's only meant as a compliment, and especially in light of some of the adversity you faced after maybe people thought you had it made, after you signed your first professional contract in Europe. You had the terrible car accident in 2009. You beat cancer. Your two sons who are now healthy were born prematurely. And you've only sort of increased your optimism quotient with each big hurdle that you faced. Thanks for sharing your experience and your heart, Charlie. Appreciate the time.
Charlie, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. It's truly inspiring to hear how much you have overcome and your commitment to motivating the next generation through soccer and coaching.
We've heard some amazing stories and testimonials today on what resilience means to our community and why the work that Boston Scores is doing is so important. Being a part of the team and having access to a caring coach mentor enables our students to overcome the daily challenges they face. Whether that challenge is losing a tough soccer game or overcoming a language barrier, being a part of the Boston Scores community equips students with the tools they need to conquer whatever comes their way.
But we cannot do it without the help of all of you here tonight. We've raised $140,000 to date and have $60,000 to go in order to reach our goal. This evening, please join Moss and I in making a donation. We also, just moments ago, had a donor offer to match all donations raised during the event up to $30,000. This means that tonight your impact is doubled. Simply go to bostonscores.org or follow the link in the chat.
Now, here's the fun part. Once you've made your donation, hold up your I donated card that was sent to your home. We'd love to see everyone holding up their cards tonight. While we give you some time to make a donation, I'd like to highlight the impact of your gift. $10,000 offers meals and snacks for all of our students for a full year of the program. $5,000 allows for one soccer and one poetry coach for a year of the program. $1,000 offers support for one student for an entire year. $500 allows for equipment and on-field supplies. $250 for healthy snacks and classroom supplies. And $100 contributes broadly to all the other student initiatives.
Additionally, I want to highlight some amazing items featured in our online auction this evening. All the funds raised through our auction will support Boston Scores programs. We have a 1-week vacation in Newport, Rhode Island, a VIP Revs match experience for 10 people, and a 1-week Loon Mountain retreat. There's also an exclusive package for all the Celtics and Bruins fans. Both games played in a private 2-floor club with its own restrooms, 3 private bars, chef's cutting station, and gourmet desserts. We have a 10-person dinner at Morton's Steakhouse, golf packages, and more tickets to your favorite Boston teams. If you're interested in any of these, we encourage you to follow the link in the chat and make a bid right now. The auction will close at noon tomorrow. Thank you so much for being here tonight and supporting our programs and students across Boston.
All of Boston Scores coach mentors train at the beginning of every season to reinforce the values of teamwork, leadership, and commitment that are core to the Boston Scores philosophy. This evening, we're giving special recognition to a coach who's been exemplary in reflecting those values, especially the core value of commitment. And we're thrilled to honor tonight Coach Cynthia Grant Carter this evening with the Outstanding Commitment Award for her 15 years of service with Boston Scores. Earlier this month, some of her students had a chance to surprise her with the award before one of their games.
Do you all know your coach, Cynthia Grant Carter?
Yes.
Can
No,
everybody
sir.
point to Coach Grant Carter?
No,
Right there.
sir.
Can everybody say thank you?
Thank you.
So today, look at her. She's so mad at me. Today
You know
we're
this?
recognizing Coach Grant Carter for being a coach with us since 2003. Can somebody tell me how many years that is? That's amazing. Good math. Cynthia Grant Carter has been a coach with us for 18 years. Can I get a oh, ow? Oh, ow. Awesome. So today, I'm excited to present you with a little something to thank you for your years of service.
You mean like a trip somewhere to the beach?
So this is Can everyone say thank you, Coach?
Thank you.
How you doing? My name is Patrick. I used to go to the Patrick J. Kennedy.
Hello, my name is Jessica, and I also went to the Patrick J. Kennedy. We both had Miss Grant Carter, and the one word to describe Miss Grant Carter is that
Unique.
she is unique.
I would describe her as enthusiastic, powerful,
The best.
incredible.
the greatest coach ever.
A very special thank you to all the Boston Scores coach mentors joining us this evening. The impact that you have on the students does not go unnoticed. And with that, we want to welcome all of our guests to transition to their virtual breakout table rooms. If you're not sent there automatically when the rooms open up, you are able to select your group from the list and move there on your own. Here, I'll walk you through it. In order to select the breakout room of your choice, first you find the breakout room icon on the bottom right of the toolbar. Once you click the breakout room icon, the list of rooms will appear. From there, simply click the one that you want and hit join. Again, go to the breakout room icon, then there will be a menu. From the list of rooms, select the one you want, hit join, and that should send you there. If you have any questions, feel free to message the host and they will be happy to help you. I want to thank everybody again for joining us. We hope that learning more about the Boston Scores programming has inspired you, and seeing the stories of the coach mentors and what the students are doing encourages you to donate. If you haven't made a donation already, please go to the link in the chat or take a picture of the QR code and make your donation now. We really appreciate everyone's participation, their generosity this year and over the years. And that concludes our program. I'm Brad Feldman. We'll see you again this time next year.